Roman Reigns didn't just choose an opponent on the post-Royal Rumble edition of Monday Night Raw. He chose a memory. He chose a past that many thought had already been settled. When Reigns named CM Punk as his WrestleMania 42 challenger, the match instantly became about more than a championship. It became about whether history in WWE ever truly stays buried or whether it simply waits for the right moment to resurface. This story matters because WrestleMania 42 is not being framed as just another defense for Roman Reigns. It is being positioned as a defining moment in his reign as the final boss of WWE. At the same time, it represents a crossroads for CM Punk, whose legacy has always been tied not only to what he did in the ring, but to how he reshaped the structure around him. The collision of those two legacies is where this story truly begins. More than a decade ago, CM Punk was not the loudest presence in WWE, but he was one of the most influential. In 2012, Punk was the WWE champion who understood that holding the title was not enough. He understood that power in WWE is rarely secured through individual dominance alone. It is secured through control, leverage, and insurance. That understanding led to the formation of The Shield. At the time, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose were introduced as enforcers. They were framed as a force of chaos, appearing whenever Punk needed protection. For weeks, their true purpose remained unclear. By the time it became apparent that Punk was the mastermind behind their arrival, the faction had already changed the landscape of the company. The roster was destabilized, alliances were broken, and WWE entered a new era. That historical context is critical when analyzing the current situation. In 2026, Roman Reigns stands at the top of WWE as the undisputed final boss. His dominance is not accidental. It is the result of years of calculated booking, character development, and narrative consistency. Reigns is no longer the man who needed guidance. He is the man others are measured against. CM Punk now finds himself in the opposite position he once occupied. He is no longer the reigning champion protecting his spot from challengers. He is the challenger attempting to dethrone a man who has seen every strategy before. That dynamic forces an important question. How does Punk realistically overcome Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 42? On the surface, the match is being presented as a straight fight. Champion versus challenger. Two icons from different eras colliding on the biggest stage. But wrestling history tells us that matches of this magnitude are rarely that simple. They are built on layers. They are built on callbacks. They are built on choices that echo far beyond the ring. This is where speculation about CM Punk potentially aligning with another faction begins to gain traction. According to reports and online discussion following Raw, there's growing curiosity around whether Punk could repeat his most famous tactic by bringing in outside help. Specifically, attention has turned toward DarkState, a dangerous faction emerging from WWE's developmental system. It is important to emphasize that this remains speculative. As of now, WWE has not confirmed any alliance between CM Punk and DarkState. There has been no on-screen tease, no official acknowledgement, and no direct indication that this is the direction the company is heading. However, speculation in wrestling often emerges when character logic and historical precedent align, and in this case, both are present. DarkState is being framed as aggressive, hungry, and disruptive. They are not presented as polished superstars stepping into the spotlight with corporate backing. They are presented as a force that thrives on chaos and opportunity. That identity mirrors the type of talent CM Punk has historically aligned himself with throughout his career. Punk has always positioned himself as a champion of the overlooked. His entire persona is built on challenging systems, exposing hypocrisy, and using unconventional methods to achieve his goals. Aligning with DarkState would not contradict that identity. It would reinforce it. It would signal that Punk is not interested in nostalgia or ceremonial victories. He is interested in winning. Such an alliance would also represent a clear shift in Punk's current presentation. Since his return, Punk has often been framed as a respected veteran, someone welcomed back into the fold. A move toward manipulation and faction leadership would move him away from that role entirely. It would transform him into something far more dangerous. For Roman Reigns, this possibility carries unique weight. The Shield was not just another faction in his career. It was the foundation. It was the platform that introduced him to the WWE audience. It was the environment in which he learned to operate under pressure. Facing a version of CM Punk who is once again pulling strings behind the scenes would force Reigns to confront the origins of his own rise. That psychological element is what makes this story compelling. This would not be about Punk finding muscle. It would be about Punk weaponizing history. It would be about reminding Roman Reigns that his journey to the top began as part of someone else's plan. Whether Reigns acknowledges that publicly or not, it is a truth that exists within WWE canon. Roman Reigns has built his current legacy on dominance and control. He has faced challengers who relied on allies before, and he has overcome them. What makes this scenario different is the identity of the man orchestrating the alliance. CM Punk is not just another rival. He is someone who understands how power structures in WWE operate because he helped build one of the most influential examples. If Punk were to turn heel and align himself with DarkState, it would immediately reframe the WrestleMania 42 match. The focus would shift from athletic competition to strategic warfare. Every interaction would carry added tension. Every appearance by DarkState would feel purposeful rather than gratuitous. It would also raise questions about Roman Reigns' preparedness. The final boss persona is built on the idea that Reigns has seen everything and adapted. Being forced to confront a mirror image of his own past would test that claim in a way few challengers ever have. There is also the matter of legacy. CM Punk's career has always been defined by moments that reshaped WWE rather than simply added to his win-loss record. Introducing the Shield was one of those moments. If Punk were to repeat that strategy with DarkState, it would reinforce the idea that his influence extends beyond his own matches. Critics might argue that revisiting this concept risks redundancy. That concern is valid. Wrestling thrives on innovation, and repeating past angles without purpose can feel hollow. However, this situation is different because the roles have reversed. Punk is no longer protecting a title. He is chasing one. Roman Reigns is no longer the enforcer. He is the target. That reversal creates a fresh narrative framework, even when familiar elements are present. It allows WWE to tell a story about evolution, consequence, and the cyclical nature of power within the company. It also allows fans to engage with the story on a deeper level, recognizing callbacks while anticipating new outcomes. Again, it must be stated clearly that this angle has not been confirmed. WWE may choose to keep this rivalry strictly one-on-one. That approach would emphasize respect, competition, and legacy without outside interference. There is value in that simplicity, especially on a stage as large as WrestleMania. However, WWE has also demonstrated a willingness to embrace long-term storytelling that rewards attentive viewers. The seeds for this type of angle exist. The characters support it. The timing supports it. Whether WWE chooses to act on it remains to be seen. Roman Reigns choosing CM Punk was not a random decision. It was a statement. It was an acknowledgement of Punk's influence and a challenge to his reputation. By accepting that challenge, Punk has the opportunity to redefine how this chapter of his career is remembered. If Punk wins clean, it will be remembered as a triumph of perseverance and skill. If he wins through strategy and manipulation, it will be remembered as a return to form. If he loses despite every tactic, it will further cement Roman Reigns as a champion who has truly surpassed his origins. That is why speculation around DarkState resonates. It is not about predicting outcomes. It is about exploring possibilities that feel earned. Wrestling at its best invites these discussions because it presents characters with histories that matter. As WrestleMania 42 approaches, the narrative will continue to evolve. Promos will add context. Interactions will add subtext. Each week will either reinforce the idea of a straight fight or subtly suggest something more complex beneath the surface. For now, what we have is a fascinating setup rooted in history, character logic, and unresolved tension. CM Punk and Roman Reigns are not just fighting for a championship. They are fighting over whose version of WWE history holds the most weight. Only time will reveal whether CM Punk chooses to walk this familiar path again. But if he does, it will not be an accident. It will be a calculated decision rooted in the same mindset that changed WWE once before. And that possibility alone is enough to keep this story worth watching. So here's the real question. If CM Punk were to align himself with DarkState as a strategic move against Roman Reigns, would that enhance the WrestleMania story, or does this rivalry deserve to be settled without outside influence?